The thunder crashed outside as I stared at my phone, the dreaded 1% battery warning glaring back at me. Trapped in this dimly lit hotel bar during the worst storm of the year was bad enough. Being stuck here with Victoria Reeves, my intimidating CEO's equally intimidating wife, was a nightmare coming to life. But what happened next would change everything I thought I knew about success, failure, and what really matters in this world. Hey everyone! Before I continue this wild true story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy real-life tales that completely flip your perspective. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for how this one ends. I'd always been the model employee at Horizon Innovations. 5 years of climbing the corporate ladder, working 60-hour weeks, and sacrificing everything for that next promotion. James Reeves, our CEO, was a legend in the industry, brilliant, demanding, and seemingly superhuman in his success. His wife Victoria was equally accomplished, a former executive who now ran her own consulting firm. They were the power couple everyone whispered about but nobody really knew. That fateful night began with our annual company retreat at Mountain View Resort. The team-building activities had wrapped up, and most colleagues had retreated to their rooms. I'd stayed at the bar, nursing a scotch while finalizing tomorrow's presentation, the one that could finally earn me the senior director position I'd been chasing. Mind if I join you? The voice startled me. Victoria Reeves stood there, elegant in her simple black dress, a glass of wine already in hand. My throat tightened. Of course, Mrs. Reeves. Victoria, please, she said, sliding onto the bar stool beside mine. Mrs. Reeves makes me sound ancient. The awkwardness hung between us like a fog. I'd only spoken to her at company functions where our conversations never ventured beyond polite small talk. Now, we were suddenly alone. Outside, the storm intensified. Rain lashed against the windows, and the lights flickered ominously before the hotel manager announced that roads were closed due to flooding. We were all stuck for the night. Well, Victoria sighed, looks like we have time to kill. She studied me with those perceptive eyes that seemed to see right through people. You're Alex Morgan, right? James mentions you often. My heart skipped. He does. He says you're brilliant but too afraid to show it. She took a sip of her wine, watching my reaction over the rim of her glass. That comment stung more than it should have. I'd always prided myself on my work ethic, on being the dependable one who executed flawlessly. I'm not afraid, I said, more defensively than intended. Victoria smiled, not unkindly, but with a knowing look that made me feel transparent. Aren't you? That presentation you're obsessing over. How many times have you revised it? 17, I admitted. And how many of those revisions actually improved the content versus just making it safer? The question hit like a bucket of ice water. I'd been so focused on creating something James couldn't criticize that I'd stripped away anything bold or innovative. As the night progressed and the storm raged on, our conversation deepened. Victoria wasn't at all what the office rumors suggested. There was no cold ambition or calculating charm. Instead, I found warmth, wisdom, and startling honesty. You know what most people get wrong about success? She asked, hours into our conversation. They think it's about avoiding failure. But James and I, we've failed spectacularly, repeatedly. That's not the story everyone tells about Horizon's meteoric rise, I countered. Victoria laughed. Before Horizon, James launched 3 startups that crashed and burned. I was fired from my executive position for pushing too hard on a risky strategy. The difference wasn't that we stopped failing, it's that we stopped letting the fear of failure dictate our choices. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos I couldn't believe existed. James, now known for his immaculate appearance and commanding presence, looking disheveled and defeated after his second company folded. Victoria, crying in her car after clearing out her office. We keep these to remember where we came from, she explained. My carefully constructed image of the perfect power couple crumbled. These weren't superhumans who'd never tasted defeat, they were people who'd been broken, rebuilt themselves, and carried their scars proudly. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I see in you what James and I used to be, talented but terrified. You've got this idea that one wrong move will erase all your hard work. So you play it safe, follow every rule, anticipate every criticism until your work becomes competent but forgettable." Her words sliced through years of professional armor I'd built. Tears welled up unexpectedly. I'd been so busy trying to be perfect that I'd made myself perfectly replaceable. "Tomorrow's presentation," she continued, "what's your actual vision for the project? Not what you think James wants to hear, not what fits neatly into Horizon's existing framework. What do you truly believe is the right direction?" For the first time in years, I spoke freely about my ideas, the ones I'd been too afraid to voice. How our flagship product could be reimagined, how we could reach entirely new markets, how we could solve problems our customers didn't even know they had yet. Victoria listened intently, occasionally challenging an assumption or asking for clarification. When I finally ran out of words, she was quiet for a long moment. "That," she said finally, "is what James has been waiting to hear from you." "But it goes against half our current strategies," I protested. "Exactly." She leaned forward. "Alex, do you know why James hired you? Your interview. You challenged him on his own product vision. You had the audacity to tell a CEO his baby was flawed, and you were right. He came home excited about this bold new hire who wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. And then I got scared," I finished. The realization was painful but clarifying. Victoria nodded. "Success didn't make us cautious. Caution would have kept us failures. The storm outside is nothing compared to the ones we weathered building our careers." Just then, the lights went out completely. The bartender lit candles, creating islands of warm light in the darkness. In that soft glow, Victoria and I continued talking, about failure, resilience, and the courage to be authentic. By morning, when the storm cleared, something had fundamentally shifted. I'd deleted my safe, polished presentation and started from scratch, working through the night to build something true to my vision. When I presented later that day, I didn't look at my notes. I spoke from conviction, challenging assumptions, and offering bold alternatives. I could feel the energy in the room change. Some executives looked uncomfortable, others intrigued. James Reeves watched with an unreadable expression. After I finished, the room was silent. Then James did something I'd never seen in 5 years. He smiled, broadly and genuinely. "This," he announced to the room, "is why we hired Alex Morgan." That presentation didn't just earn me the promotion, it changed my entire trajectory at the company. Within 6 months, I was leading our most innovative division. Within a year, my team had developed the product that would eventually become Horizon's new flagship. But the real change wasn't professional, it was personal. I stopped living in fear of failure and started embracing the lessons it offered. I built a team that valued candor over comfort. I made mistakes, big ones, and survived them. Sometimes, when facing a particularly difficult decision, I think back to that stormy night. To Victoria's words, "The only true failure is being too afraid to be yourself." What began as an awkward encounter turned into the most important conversation of my career. It taught me that our heroes are human, that failure is not fatal, and that authenticity, not perfection, is the true currency of lasting success. If there's one thing I hope you take from this story, it's this: the person you're afraid to be might be exactly the person you need to become. The ideas you're afraid to voice might be exactly the ones that need to be heard. And sometimes, getting stuck in a storm is exactly where you need to be. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about the unexpected moments that change everything. Leave a comment below about a time when an unexpected conversation changed your perspective. I read every comment and would love to hear your experiences. Until next time, remember, the most powerful storms often clear the path to our brightest days.